Fox Sports.
We are Baltimore. We are St. Louis.
This is St. Louis Cardinals baseball from Busch Stadium in St. Louis. Game number 3, interleague play. The New York Yankees and the St. Louis Cardinals. Rubber game between these two teams, and in game number 2 last night, a dominant performance by right-hander Lance Lynn. He would go the distance. His first complete game, it would be a shutout, and the Cardinals take game number 2. Welcome to game number 3. That's the Hall of Famer, Tim McCarver. My name is Dan McLaughlin. Delighted to have you with us for baseball on Fox Sports Midwest. And yes, Lance Lynn was very good, but also you have to have a little help behind you, and he had that in game 2.
Defense goes with the good pitching, hand in glove, and what a hand in the glove of Colton Wong in last night's ball game. Responsible for 3 outs in the 4th inning, a brilliant pivot for the double play. And then in the 5th inning, a diving stop and a diving catch in foul territory, and another great pivot in the 8th. Colton Wong was all over the place in last night's game.
Now here in game number 3, the Cardinals turn to Shelby Miller. Miller has been dominant here at home. Derek Jeter, by the way, not in the Yankees lineup. It's game number 3, New York and St. Louis coming up. Sports Midwest is brought to you by Budweiser. Designate a driver and enjoy the great times. It's Chevy Truck Month. Visit your Mid-America Chevy dealers to take advantage of Truck Month offers on the all-new Chevy Silverado. And by Menards. Save big money at Menards on all your home improvement needs. Brett Gardner walking to the dish. A look at the Yankees lineup tonight with Gardner, then Brian Roberts, Jacoby Ellsbury, McCann, Murphy, Ichiro, Brendan Ryan, Johnson, and Kuroda. No Derek Jeter tonight. The Cardinals turned it over to Shelby Miller, our Kia starter, with a record of 6-3 and very good numbers in his career here at Busch Stadium.
13-4 and a 1.75 earned run average. He likes it here.
Always find it interesting to see why certain pitchers have a comfort zone against a particular hitter, maybe a team. In this case, his home ballpark for Shelby Miller, and that's strike two.
I think it's one of those statistics in baseball that's understandable. Most pitchers like to pitch at home because the mound's the same every time they go out there. When you're pitching on the road, and his opponent tonight, Kuroda, has not won a game in 11 starts on the road. You're always facing a different slope. Some mounds are flatter. All mounds are only 10 inches high, of course, since 1968. But it's one of those things that's understandable. I'm surprised that more pitchers aren't better at home than on the road.
Here's a 1-2. The breaking ball lifted into center. Peter Borges is there for out number one. Look at the Cardinals defensively tonight. Some changes in there with Holiday in left. Borges, his second start in this series. He's in center field. John Jay is in right. So Carpenter at third, Descalso at short, Peralta on the bench. Colton Wong has had a good series defensively. Alan Craig moving from right to first. And Yadier Molina is behind the plate. The Cardinals just one error in nearly their past 20 games. Here's Brian Roberts. Takes a ball low. Hitting .242 with a pair of home runs. And he has driven in 11. Takes the spot of Derek Jeter in this lineup. Yankees wrapping up their road trip here tonight and the off day tomorrow. Joe Girardi indicating that Jeter would be in the lineup Friday night. They're also hoping to get Mark Teixeira in their lineup as well. Not played in this series. I'm sure Cardinal fans are hoping at some point one more glimpse at the future Hall of Famer tonight.
One more standing O.
You got it.
Very important, obviously, for Shelby Miller to come back. He leads the majors in walks per 9 innings, falling behind Brian Roberts here.
Make chase ball 4.
Helped him out, right.
Last time out, only one walk issued for Miller. And another issue, Tim, has been the home runs allowed. Shelby has allowed 9 home runs to go along with those walks. On 3-2, it's a fly ball lifted to left. Back goes Holiday. 2 away. Crew chief is behind the plate. Larry Vanover. Angel Hernandez down at first. Adrian Johnson at second. Gabe Morales is at third. 80 degrees here in the Gateway City. Light rain about 20 minutes ago. It's gotten a bit muggy here in St. Louis. Here's Jacoby Ellsbury. 6 for 33 on the road trip for the Bronx Bombers. Always hear about the internal competition among a pitching staff in We'll see if it carries over to tonight after a outstanding performance from the Cardinals' Lance Lynn in Game 2.
I know what you mean. It's after a first complete game shutout in his career. That's professional career. Only one time, but the guy who was out there the next night wants to do as well.
Shallow center, drops in for a base hit. Ellsbury is aboard. 2-out hit. And it brings in Brian McCann.
Quirky game, isn't it? The first two guys hit the ball hard at guys. And Jacoby Ellsbury getting jammed on the breaking ball. Plops it in front of Borges in center field.
Shift here for Brian McCann, who is at first base tonight, not catching. An issue for Shelby Miller this point last year, holding runners on, and he's doing a lot more of that, just throwing over to give Molina even a chance. Teams are running against him.
The formula for pitchers when they throw to first base, as you're checking Nick Kelleher, the first base coach, out, is when you're throwing to first base, think about first 100% of the time. When you're throwing home 100% of the time. It's the formula that's 85-15 that gets you. When you're throwing to first base, you're thinking about the hitter, or which is even more damaging, when you're throwing to the hitter and you've got some thought about that runner at first base. That's the bad formula.
Ellsbury is 12 of 14. The stolen base department this year, not running, and it's taken easily by Daniel Descalso, the shortstop. Yankees strand a runner. No score after a half inning from Bush. Stadium, along with Jim Hayes and Tim McCarver. Dan McLaughlin with you. Matt Carpenter will lead it off, followed by Colton Wong and then Matt Holliday. Alan Craig is your cleanup man. Then Yadier Molina, John Jay, Peter Borges, Daniel Descalso, and the pitcher batting ninth, that is Shelby Miller. Hiroki Kuroda, the Cardinals have seen him in the past, pitching with the Dodgers and now with the New York Yankees.
Third year with the Yankees, and a very unusual movement. He has really two hesitations in his delivery, on the back leg and then with the left leg kick. Hesitates going back, hesitates when the left leg comes up, and could be deceptive for a hitter.
All about timing, isn't it?
Yeah, sure is. Hitting is timing, and a pitcher's job is to mess up that timing. A little more complex than that, but not much.
8th season as a manager for Joe Girardi. He was with the Marlins. Short stint there, but did a very good job in Miami. And took over for the Yankees. As Carpenter lays down a bunt, pushed it foul. He's riding a 9-game hitting streak. You gave him high praise the other day. And speaking of Joe Girardi, you think he's one of the best in the game today?
He was the manager of the year in his rookie season. How many managers have done that? That was back in 2006. You mentioned the Marlins. First of a 4-year extension with the Yankees.
Here's the 0-1. See that side of the plate so far tonight. Low and away to the lefties, down and into the righties. Shelby Miller got a few of those calls, and that one goes against Matt Carpenter. The 0-2. And he strikes out.
Fastball, the bunt attempt, and then 2 split finger fastballs from Kuroda, who worked for 11 seasons in Japan before coming to the Dodgers.
Yankees defense, Gardner, Ellsbury, and Suzuki. All 3 plus defenders in the outfield. Johnson at third. Old buddy Brendan Ryan at shortstop. Roberts at second base. McCann, first career start at first base. And John Ryan Murphy is behind the plate. Tony La Russa, when Brendan Ryan was in St. Louis, said he was one of the best defensive players he had ever seen, ever, at shortstop. That's from Tony La Russa.
Talk about high praise.
I'd say. Unique spot for that man, Brian McCann, tonight.
Looking in the Yankee dugout and moving into the straightaway shortstop position after being in the middle for the first pitch.
Wong with a fly ball into right, and there is Ichiro.
I noticed when reading the lineup, you gave Ichiro a one-name designation, and you know he had that almost immediately with Seattle back in 2000, right, Dan?
Ichiro Suzuki, but the only time I ever heard his name, or when it was ever spoken, you just heard Ichiro. So
yeah, it's kind of like Napoleon.
Exactly.
How many times do you hear Bonaparte?
Never. That may be the first. You're pretty good when you go by one name.
Yeah.
As Holiday chops it to third. Kelly Johnson across the diamond, and a 1-2-3 inning for Kuroda. No score after an inning of play here at Busch Stadium. And Brendan Ryan, those 3 due up for the Yankees. And let's check in with Jim Hayes. Jimmy.
Yeah, Matt Adams not in the lineup tonight because of tightness in his left calf. Matt told me that he tweaked something last night. He's not sure when. but it tightened up over the last couple of innings. He says after the game he got together with the trainers, did some exercises, and it loosened up, and he thought that was that, but it tightened up again overnight. And Matt says they're sitting him out tonight as a precaution. He told me he feels like he'd be fine to pinch hit, but he's not sure the training staff would clear him, as they don't want him to aggravate the cap any further. Big picture for Big City, he says he doesn't think it's serious, and Dan, he describes his situation as day-to-day.
As I always say, Tim, aren't we all?
Aren't we all?
John Ryan Murphy, the youngest catcher in the major leagues. Yankees have dealt with injuries that we've spoken about as he lines it into right. Their backup catcher, Francisco Cervelli, out with a hamstring. So a look at Murphy, who's hit .378 out of Bradenton, Florida. 23 years of age, does have a home run, and he's driven in 6.
Pretty heady when you're 22 years old and you're hitting 5th for the Yankees.
Think about that.
Yeah.
The New York Yankees.
Yeah.
Chopped to third. Carpenter. Miller gets the first out. We turn to Tim McCarver's Toyota keys to the game.
Cardinals trying to keep that offense going, and the Yankees life without Jeter tonight, being rested. And keep in mind that the Cardinals have a well-rested bullpen, and that's what a 9-inning shutout will do. Lance Lynn with a brilliant performance last night.
There is Ichiro, who's hit safely in 14 of his 19 starts. Should get a look at Lance Lynn. Adam Wainwright on the right. Lynn on the left. Adam with 8 wins, but that's not tops in Major League Baseball. Mark Burley has turned back the clock for Toronto.
St. Louis,
9 wins. The 2-1 pitch popped up. Descalso playing for Johnny Peralta tonight at shortstop. Peralta, by the way, turned 32 today. Current Cardinal shortstop to the former shortstop Brendan Ryan. He's dealt with a cervical spine issue. Began in early spring training. We've seen him play first base in this series.
hit in game 1, a hit last night. Brendan, not known for his offense, but has battled and battled to stay in the big leagues, and he's done it because of his glove. He is a wizard defensively.
Mentioned one of your keys, life without Jeter. And you wonder this time next year, you know, where do the Yankees turn? Is it
That's a
Brendan
very
Ryan?
good point. That's a great point, Dan. I don't know.
0-2 mistake and a base hit into center field.
Now, that was a mistake because he had too much of the plate. So one thing, Shelby, a rookie, of course, last year, and you have to know when to throw strikes and when to throw balls. It's very important. Pitches that look like strikes but aren't, that too much of the plate. And Ryan with the second Yankee hit.
Here's Kelly Johnson hitting 196. From your experience, Tim, and I know we talk a lot about Yadier Molina, and right now at a record pace catching base stealers. In a general sense, the key for Yadier or any catcher against a base stealer. What do you see with him?
The transfer from the glove to the bare hand. Every position player throws cross-seam fastballs because it gets there quicker and it's straighter. So with Molina in the manipulation of the hand from the glove, he does it in practice all the time. All catchers do. They get the four seams, and that makes the throw true to second base or to third base.
And how about footwork?
Well, that's very important. There are a lot of things that are very important, and you have to have quick feet to be a good catcher. But the transfer, in my mind, is the most important thing. It follows the feet, not defeat, the feet.
I got you. Here's a 1-1. Slowly hit to the right side, and Alan Craig steps on the bag. The Yankees have stranded two. And from Busch Stadium, there's no score. Hashtag STL Fan Photo brought to you by AT&T. Interleague play. Two historic franchises. Yankees founded in 1901. The Cardinals in 1882. The Yankees with 40 league championships, most all time. The Cardinals with 19. St. Louis, the 11 world championships. And for the Yankees, 27, most recent in 2009.
That's why Joe Girardi, the manager of the Yankees, wears number 28. The Yankees in hopes of getting that 28th World Series championship.
Tony La Russa for years wore number 10 because of that, trying to get to that 10th World Championship.
You know, I didn't know that.
That's why he did it.
I did not know that. Right number. 2011, arguably the best World Series ever. I don't think what is arguable is that Game 6 was the best World Series game ever.
You saw some great ones, played in some great ones. I think of the Minnesota Atlanta duel.
Jack Morris's 10 innings shutout ball. Minnesota won it 1-0 over Atlanta. Arizona Diamondbacks against the Yankees in 2001 and then 2011.
The thing about that Game 6 is that first half of the game was pretty sloppy.
Yeah.
And then it turned out to be one of the most memorable games in World Series history. Here's the 0-2. As Craig lines it into center field, and a sliding catch by Jacoby Ellsbury. He is a good defensive player.
Ellsbury made a great play on a ball on the track last night, and we talked about how shallow he plays. Now, for a center fielder to make this play and the play he made last night against Matt Carpenter in the middle of the track, tracking it down, was a You know, that's a center fielder with range. You rarely hear about the range for outfielders like you hear about range for infielders. But he's got it. Excuse me, Dan.
I thought Jim Edmonds has played probably as shallow as anybody that I've seen in the last 15-20 years as Molina hits a fly ball out to left, and that drops in. Over the wall and a ground rule double. But Edmonds never had the speed of Jacoby Ellsbury.
No. And acceleration from a standstill. That's the most important thing for an outfielder. Of course, a jump on the ball. And Yadi Molina with the first Cardinal hit. He'd been over his last 8 before that double. Looked like a slider from Kuroda that backed up over the middle of the plate. Catchers don't catch those.
Sits on a tee for the hitter.
Yeah, does.
John Jay 2 for 6 in this series. And takes a ball outside. And Edmonds was incredible at understanding the hitter and his pitcher in situations. He would get, Tim, jumps that nobody in the league would get. And not the fastest of outfielders, as that ground ball is hit to short, bobbled by Ryan, his second error this year.
There's no doubt that Yadier Molina jumping over that ball had something to do with Brendan Ryan, as sure a hands it short as there is in the game. Molina's just trying to prevent from getting hit by the ball, and he jumps right there. I mean, that was so evident, obscuring the view of Ryan. One more time, low hurdles.
Not to be confused with Edwin Moses, but he winds up at third.
That's right.
It's 2 costly errors. 4th inning last night against the Yankees led to a big inning for St. Louis as Borges chops it towards third and a foul ball. Yankee starters have allowed 3 earned runs or fewer in 13 straight. That includes last night because Phelps allowed 5 runs, but only 3 were earned. Rotation minus CC Sabathia, not due to come back until late July.
You notice how the infield is shortened up a little bit because Borges is very difficult to double. He and Wong, the fastest Cardinals. The infielders giving themselves the option of coming home on a ball that's slowly hit.
1 ball, 1 strike. Right before that pitch, Molina started darting towards the plate. Borges, a very good bunter. 3 bunt hits to lead the club this year. How much is a move like that, Tim, to not only keep Jay close, you're aware of him, but also to see if Borges would make any kind of move as if he's going to bunt?
It does nothing.
You're as direct as Bob Gibson.
Well, it does nothing. That's one of those throws to first base that mean nothing. Should be banned. I'm only kidding.
Need to get you and LaRusse and Selig in a room. We'll come out with all new rules for Major League Baseball. One ball and 2 strikes on Peter Borges. 7th place hitter, Descalso on deck. Ground ball hit to third, play at the plate. Molina is hung up. Murphy tags out Molina.
Yeah, we talked about that. Elliott Johnson in at third base. Now, he could have had Borges on the double play, but he elected to come home, and I think that was the right play. One of those high choppers, not quite even with the bag, but more or less coming home immediately. And Molina is out, but the Cardinals failed to plate that run. That is the right play by Johnson.
Runners at first and second, 2 down now. And it's the Cardinals shortstop, Daniel Descalso, hitless in his last 9. Mike Matheny really sticking with a middle infield now, primarily, with the exception of tonight. That is Peralta and Wong. So Descalso not seeing as much time, and neither is Mark Ellis. Outfield is shallow. 2-0. Shelby Miller on deck. Two and one. The packed house here at Busch Stadium. It's turned out to be a very nice night here in St. Louis. The Yankees took game 1 in 12 innings. The Cardinals a shutout last night. And scoreless thus far here in the bottom of the second. 2 outs, 2 on. 2 balls, 1 strike on Daniel Descalso. Only other pitchers with both as many strikeouts and as few walks through their first 75 starts with the Yankees is Kuroda, David Wells, and Mike Mussina. A lot of strikeouts. Control is there, and he's got Descalso at 3-2. Strikeout of Descalso. Bottom dropped out of that pitch. Second strikeout for Kuroda. Major League Baseball action, beginning with the Braves taking on the Marlins. That's on Fox Sports 1. Then Baseball Night in America. Rays battle the Red Sox, or the Pirates take on the Dodgers. Doubleheader begins Saturday at 2:30. Continues at 6 on Fox.
That was a good pitch, a piece of pitching by Kuroda. After the 3-1 get me over curveball, he threw that very tough splitter out of the strike zone, toppling, turning, third out.
Miller back to work here in the top of the third against Kuroda. He threw that pitch 3-2 with 2 runners on, 2 outs, knowing Miller's on deck. Descalso chased as Kuroda hits it out of play. Tim, you mentioned the wins for Shelby Miller. 13 in 21 career starts here at Busch Stadium. His ERA 1.72. No other Cardinals pitcher has won 13 or more in his first 21 home starts. And having that low of an ERA, that's how good he's been. It's historical perspective of Shelby Miller.
Pretty common knowledge that Shelby falls behind in the count. That's when the home runs come. And obviously, most of his walks come from 1-0, 2-0 instead of 0-1, 0-1 and 0-2 counts. Turn that around. It can be simple. It's a lot tougher to do than it sounds. But instead of 1-0 and 2-0, change it to 0-1 and 0-2. First pitch strike. We talked about it last night, how important it was for a guy like Shelby Miller. It's more important than it is for most pitchers. A guy like Wainwright, who could throw a changeup behind in the count, curveball behind in the count. Shelby has yet to be able to do that. Tonight, 7 of 10 first pitch strikes.
Just missed outside. This is Brett Gardner. There aren't many Yankees that were drafted then developed by New York that stayed in the big leagues with the Yankees. Over the years, they've traded a lot of their farm system or have gone out and signed big free agents. McCann, Ellsbury. Compare that to the Cardinals, Shelby Miller being one of them. 22 players on their current roster who have made their big league debuts with St. Louis, and that's the most homegrown players for any major league team. They have done, Tim, a remarkable job in drafting, and then once they're there in the system, developing these players. Yankees, that's not to say there's a right or a wrong way to do it, but they spend a lot of money. Cardinals have developed some outstanding talent over the years. But think about
the
that.
Yankees,
22.
The Yankees did that back in the early 90s. We talked about it in Game 1. Bernie Williams, Mariano Rivera, Derek Jeter. They made trades for Paul O'Neill.
And a walk of Gardner with 1 out here in the top of the third.
His fastball just inside. It's a tough take on a 3-2 pitch. I think Brett Gardner is one of the most underrated players in the major leagues.
Signed a 4-year extension back in February. Yeah, the core 4 for the Yankees. It was Posada, Rivera, Pettit, Jeter. All broke in 1995, and Derek Jeter, the last one standing.
Just ask Joe Torre. It was a great time to become a manager of the New York Yankees, as he did in 1996. Or what if Buck Showalter had decided to come back that year? It's funny how the fates play different hands. Yankees will retire the number 6 of Joe Torre within the next month, and then of course he enters the Hall of Fame along with Tony La Russa and 4 others in late July.
Here's a 1-0 pitch to Brian Roberts. One ball, one strike on Roberts. Brett Gardner is 11 of 12 in steals this year. Stands at first after a 1-out walk. Line drive into center field. Drops in for a hit. Derek Jeter not in the lineup tonight, but the active players, the most World Series games active. Jeter with 38, and then after that, Molina, Holiday, Pujols, what he did in St. Louis, and Shane Victorino with time in Philadelphia and the Boston Red Sox. Most all time, by the way, a tie to both franchises to an extent. Yogi Berra. Yogi played in 75 World Series games.
He kids Derek Jeter all the time. Yogi, of course, from the Hill in St. Louis. Grew up down the street from Joe Garagiola. And Yogi kidding Derek all the time. Derek with, what, 5 World Series rings?
5.
And Yogi has twice as many. He said, I can cover all my fingers.
Thumbs too, right?
Yeah.
0-1 pitch to Ellsbury. Base hit into right center. That ball will get down. Run will score. And the Yankees grab an early lead 1-0. Ellsbury, his 19th RBI.
That was another fastball that caught a lot of the plate after the 1-out walk to Gardner. Don't forget that at bat. But that part of the plate fastball, and major league hitters, we talked about it briefly last night, they are geared and zeroed in on the middle part of the plate. They get a pitch they're looking for. Middle part of the plate. They usually hit it hard somewhere.
That walk to Gardner comes around to score. That was his 31st walk he had issued this year. And for the most part, it's one of those oddities too where he's had a lot of walks. Many of those walks have not come around to score. That's not the case here. That's why he has 6 wins. He's been able to minimize the damage. There's Brian McCann, who popped out to short his first time up. Runner goes. And Molina, not even a throw. Stolen base for Ellsbury. His 13th.
You rarely see that. No throw by Molina. That's how good a jump Ellsbury had. And now your infield is inching in a little bit more to try to cut down the runner at home. No double play position.
3-0 on McCann, and Murphy, the young catcher, waits on deck. As you mentioned, it was a borderline pitch to take by Gardner. Went his way, a walk, back-to-back singles, and they're just going to put McCann on. See Molina set up about a foot outside. So 2 walks in the inning, bases loaded. The golden opportunity here for the Yankees. Pair of singles, and now the walk to McCann. Derek Lilliquist, the Cardinals pitching coach, is out to visit. And Tim, Derek will tell you that one thing that Shelby Miller has done here the last couple of weeks, and I'm not sure if this is the case or not, maybe Derek has picked up on something, but when they see him walk hitters, they talk so much about his mechanics. Not so much a lack of concentration, and maybe one is tied in with the other. But they talk about his mechanics, and recently they feel that Shelby has been making in-game adjustments, where earlier this year he just could not get back to square one in his comfort zone and making that in-game adjustment, being a young pitcher.
I'm not a proponent of somebody talking about mechanics in the middle of an inning. I'm not even a proponent of talking about it in the dugout.
Base hit into right center. One run is in, and here comes another. 3-0 New York. Murphy drives in RBI 7 and 8.
John Ryan Murphy, only 22 years old and picking up 2 RBIs. Not a bad pitch. That fastball low and away. But particularly with young pitchers, I think that was a breaking ball and a good one. It looked like good hitting by Murphy. But particularly with young pitchers, you start them thinking about mechanics and all that sort of stuff, shoulder and all that. It's too much to think about. I think you work on the mind during the game and the mechanics after the game or before the game or any time but during the game.
Runners at the corners for Ichiro, popped out to short. 0 for 1. (2-0). He's struggling to find the strike zone now. Only hitting 150 in this spot. Runners in scoring position. You can see where this lineup would be unforgiving when healthy. Ichiro hits it towards second. Wong gets that man, but not Ichiro. Get down the line. Run scores. McCann, and it's 4-0.
Yeah, almost impossible to get a guy with Ichiro's speed, even though he's closing in on 40. Cardinals scoring 4 in the third last night, and the Yankees so far with 4 in the third here tonight. Murphy doing what he can to break up the double play, but no way to get Ichiro anyway.
Now Brendan Ryan singled to center on a breaking ball and an 0-2 pitch back in the second inning. Then left stranded. Fastball and a strike.
What set this inning up was that walk to Gardner. You talked about it. And Shelby made the curveball on the 2-1 count, the 2-ball, one strike count. He threw a curveball for a strike and then just missed on 2 straight fastballs. You hear it so often. It's not necessarily the walks, but what comes after them.
Ichiro in his first year in Seattle stole 56. Last year with New York, he had 20 steals. It's the one part about interleague play that fans, you don't hear much argument about it. They love seeing guys like Jeter, Ichiro. More than likely the final time that we would see Ichiro here in St. Louis as well. The 1-1. Long inning here for Shelby Miller. Two is hit to short. Descalso. Long throw high, and Craig is on the bag. pair of walks, 3 hits in the inning. The speed of Jacoby Ellsbury's been on display for 3 nights here in St. Louis. Yankees put up a 4 spot.
I had to do, quite a good job lobbying for that extra inning. I asked for 9 pitches, and he said, we'll see, and he let me go out, and he let me throw 10. But if a runner would have got on, I might have been coming out.
Lance Lynn talking about last night. He's the first Cardinals pitcher since 1942 to shut out the Yankees Cardinals pitcher in either the regular season or postseason. Ernie White threw a 6-hitter. Game 3 of the 1942 World Series. And now it's Shelby Miller. Cardinals down by 4. Start play here in the bottom of the 3rd. Yankees have actually lost 3 games this year, which they had a lead of 3 or more runs with Kuroda on the mound. He surrendered 4 leads this season. That's the most on the staff. Relievers have given up leads in other games, which he was in line for a win. So he's been in this spot before. As Miller hits a fly ball out to center. Ellsbury, 1 away. Cardinals score 6, get any size drink, and on the run just 50 cents the next day. Keep the savings going while you're there by grabbing a fresh all beef hot dog. It's only at On the Run. Brings in Matt Carpenter. Matt Carpenter has a terrific batting eye. It seemed to be that case last year. And more times than not this year, Tim, those borderline pitches, it seems like, are going against him. He's only swung at 34% of the pitches thrown to him this year. 34%. That's the lowest of its kind for any major league hitter this year.
That's 1 out of every 3 pitchers.
Selective, and you wonder at times, is he too selective?
Probably. That's hard to say about a guy who had the type of year he had last year.
Exactly. Two balls and no strikes. There's 29 walks, 5th best in the league.
Ought to turn himself loose right here, but he takes. Getting in a situation like that when you can get a predictable pitch, that's the whole thing. Get a predictable pitch, you want to swing at it. But Matt's philosophy He's not the same as a lot of guys.
Ground ball slowly hit to the right side. Corona to the bag, 2 down. Tim, you mentioned it. Really varies at times, the delivery of this right-hander, Corona.
Yeah, the hesitation on the back leg, and then when the left leg goes up, that can be disconcerting for a hitter. Again, hitting his timing, and a pitcher's job to mess up his timing, and with Corona, that's the natural delivery.
2 outs, Colton Wong. Talking after the game last night about his confidence. Said the minor leagues, yeah, it was a nice trip to Memphis, but of course you love Memphis. You better say you love Memphis. You're Tim McCarver.
Well, because I'm from there.
Exactly.
Obviously.
And he was saying that his confidence, though, has come back. He said, I just made a decision. I'm going to be the player that I know I can be, and that's going to get me over the hump. You know, I've played at a high level before. He was a very good college player, 300-plus hitter in the minor leagues. Like Memphis, don't really want to go back. I'd like to stay in the big leagues. And I thought your point earlier in this series is spot on. All these guys, they have the talent. Clearly, physically, somebody believes in them. They know they're good. The player then mentally, the frame of mind to stick.
Check up from the neck up.
The 2-1.
Well, and last night we were saying, I mean, these players have been scouted and scouted and scouted and scouted. So others have determined their ability. And Colton knows that he's got to be the guy who determines whether he's going to use that ability to the max.
A 2-2. Line drive and a base hit into right. Went down to get it.
A lot of people think that if the ball is down, then the pitcher's done his job. Not necessarily. Not to a guy like Colton Wong. Good low ball hitter. That ball was hit hard.
Brings in Holiday. Hit his first home run last night since April 28th. Closing in on 1,000 RBIs. He is 6 shy of that mark. Many teams look at hit speed off the bat now. One of their tools to measure. Taken just a bit low. Now Holiday has reached base in all 23 home games this year. And the last to do it like this to start a season in such a manner, Sally Hemus in 1953. I see a little smile going across your face. He did it in 33 straight to begin the year.
Well, I mean, hitters have so many things. You just wonder if there's not overload with some major league hitters, with a lot of major league hitters, with too many things.
Base hit into center.
You know, the video room and the detail that hitters go through, and yet for the most part, runs are down, hitting is down. How do you explain that?
Way down.
Yeah,
Strikeouts are way
down.
up.
Runs are way down.
Yeah, offense across the board, 9th consecutive year it is down in Major League Baseball.
I guess it's rather nice for people in our business. We're broadcasters, and in trying to explain things, it would be nicer for us to do it. But when you see that the players can do the same things, then you start worrying. There is a lot of virtue in see the ball and hit it.
Strike one on Craig. It was a sliding catch by Ellsbury to take a hit away off the bat of Alec Craig in the second inning. Slowly but surely starting to come around. 260 with runners in scoring position. RBI total is at 26. 2 back of the team lead. Matt Holliday at 28. Home run last night was number 5. Ball scoots away, and Wong on his way to third.
That's a nice play by Colton Wong, because when you're on second base, you often can't tell how far it gets behind the catcher, because the catcher is between you and the ball. Now that's an instinctive play. You don't need a video to tell you to go to third base on a ball like that. It's going to be a wild pitch, but could have been a pass ball.
Runners at the corners.
Oh, it is being ruled a pass ball. Spoke too soon.
They're quick around here. 0-2 pitch to Alan Craig with 2 outs and 2 on. Little hesitation, and then saw it go through.
Well, the hesitation comes from not knowing how far the ball is by the catcher. Since the Cardinals are down by 4, that's certainly prudent thinking.
Murphy is behind the plate tonight. McCann, their everyday catcher, is at first.
Talking to Matt Holliday, you don't have to do that when you're a catcher. You don't have to talk to the base runners.
The 0-2 just missed inside. Isn't that the truth, though? Some of the best conversations in the game are right now happening at first base.
Well, in the history of the game, however, none of them have meant anything. In the history of the game, not one legitimate word has been uttered with a runner on it.
You could say that as an absolute fact.
That is a fact, yes.
A ball at 2 strikes here on Craig. They set up inside. And they hit him. Bases loaded. In steps Yadier Molina. All this being done with 2 outs. Back-to-back singles. Craig hit by a pitch. Bases loaded. Ground rule double and his first hit in this series. First time up in the second. And he takes strike 1. Popped out. Cardinals strand, the bases loaded. Corona out of the jam, and after 3, 4-0 New York. Fox Sports Midwest is brought to you by AT&T. Watch live TV on your device virtually anywhere with AT&T UVerse. Mobilizing your world. And by Schnucks, your neighborhood hometown grocer for 75 years. It's turned into a beautiful night. The Cardinals and the New York Yankees. 4-0 in favor of the Bronx Bombers. Derek Jeter, if you're just joining us, not in the lineup tonight for Joe Girardi's club. Kelly Johnson leads it off, followed by Kuroda and Gardner. 2 balls and no strikes. Second time in his career allowing 4 runs in an inning. Last time was at Oakland. A broken bat that may drop. It's a base hit. And Johnson is 1 for 2 tonight. Great way to start the summer. Sunday, June 1st, kids 48 inches and under receive a free ticket to Six Flags, valid for a weekday visit until July 1st. Also get a Cardinals ticket with that. Six Flags Day, June 1st, cardinals.com/promotions.
You know, Dan, Kuroda is going to be up there to bunt. I think bunting is more dangerous than swinging a bat in interleague play, because of a lot of times the pitcher, as Molina makes an easy play, but a lot of time a pitcher does not realize that he's got his fingers on the barrel of the bat.
You see those broken fingers trying to lay down a bunt?
Sure.
I think it's a distinct unfair advantage for the American League teams when they go to a National League park.
I agree.
There's what you're talking about, Tim. It's not on the barrel, but it's close.
And you know, there's no bat control, but look at the fingers. All the fingers are in the hitting position, and if that pitch is inside, he's not going to be able to get out of the way of that ball.
Not at all. I've always felt, and I don't know if you would agree, but if you're going to do it this way, play National League baseball in American League parks. So let the DH be in the National League and then not in the American, in interleague play, as Brett Gardner flies to center. You know, the idea was to spark interest for the fans, done for the fans, for the game's interest, which it has been good. I mean, across the board, it's been a positive
no question
aspect of the game. Bud Selig has done a lot of different things, and this is one of his crowning achievements. And but if you're going to make it different, why not try it for those fans that don't see the DH and vice versa? Here's Brian Roberts, who is 1 for 2 of the runs scored. Shoots it into left center. Borges over, cuts it off. Johnson on his way to third. And it's a double for Brian Roberts, who is 2 for 3.
Good play by Peter Borges to cut that ball off. That ball tailing away from him, hit by the left-hander, as Peter made a nice play tracking it down to prevent Kelly Johnson from scoring. But again, fat part of the plate fastball.
Already 7 hits for New York.
A lot of pitchers used to say the plate's 17 inches wide, and that outside 2 inches and inside 2 inches are mine. The middle 13 is yours, and major league hitters usually use that middle 13 to make a lot of money.
Base hit into center field off the bat of Ellsbury. 2 runs will score, 6-0 New York. And Jacoby Ellsbury with 3 RBIs. Ellsbury now with 21 driven in. Just like you were saying.
Well, once again, it was a breaking ball, but that part of the plate. Ellsbury hammers it to center field. 2-run score. And now a 6-0 Yankee lead.
McCann with 2 outs and a runner at first. Runner goes, and Miller never even gave Molina a shot. Second time we've seen that tonight. Mentioned it earlier, this was an issue for Shelby Miller last year, holding runners on and even just giving Yachty a chance to gun him down. This is hammered down the right field line, but yanked foul. Right now, Miller isn't fooling anybody. A ball and a strike on Brian McCann. Walked and scored in the third and popped out to short. Line drive into right. Here comes Ellsbury. The throw by Jay cut off. 7-0 New York. No activity right now in the Cardinals pen.
Not a lot of room out there, but Brian McCann finds a spot where nobody's playing in right field. 3 infielders on the right, 2 outfielders. In front of Jay and behind Colton Wong. No cheap hits tonight. Those balls have been hit hard with Sam Freeman warming up.
You know, Mike Matheny was saying that he needs to get innings somewhere for Sam Freeman. Well, tonight would be one of those nights. Seth Maness, another one. A 7-run lead for the Yankees. What has turned out to be a disappointing night so far. Yankees saw a complete game shutout thrown against them last night for the first time since July of last season. That was Chris Archer of Tampa Bay. And tonight, just 24 hours later, that's the game of baseball. Completely different story. Short lead at first by McCann, and here's Murphy. Now he throws over. Some boos here at the ballpark.
Tell you, if you played the game, you don't boo. Ever.
Tough game.
Can humiliate you.
How are those Philly fans to you? Speaking of boos.
Most of the time, fine.
Most of the time.
Most of the time, yeah. Pete Rose said once, one of his famous remarks, I was never booed in a white uniform. And he wasn't, whether it was Cincinnati or Philadelphia.
Ooh, up and in to the backstop on an 0-2 pitch. Wild pitch. By the way, back in the third inning, initially ruled a pass ball and then turned to a wild pitch charge to Shelby Miller. So 2 of those tonight.
Yadier Molina setting up outside, that ball up and in.
One ball and 2 strikes. Miller is due up fourth for the Cardinals, looking ahead to the bottom of this inning. Yeah, the risk you run, you're Mike Matheny, and for Joe Girardi to an extent last night, you'd like to go to your bullpen at times, but then you realize, you know what, San Francisco's in town tomorrow, and you don't have an off day for a while. And Joe Girardi's played a number of extra inning games on this road trip. Sometimes you got to stay out there. We'll see if that happens tonight with Shelby Miller. Jacoby Ellsbury, base hit into center to score 2. 7-0 New York. Sent directly to your smartphone. Right now, get a free large sandwich with any purchase just for downloading. We're at Busch Stadium in St. Louis. Tim McCarver, Jim Hayes, Dan McLaughlin with you. 7-0 the lead for the New York Yankees. Hiroki Kuroda, who had just incredible years over in Japan when you looked at his numbers.
11 years with the Hiroshima Carp.
Came over, signed with the Los Angeles Dodgers. 9-10 his first season, then 8-7. Double digits the next 2 years with the Dodgers in terms of wins. His best season, arguably 2012 with the Yankees. He was a 16-game winner. And here's the right fielder tonight, John Jay. Jay reached on an air by Brendan Ryan. First time up.
Yeah, the game was scoreless at the time, and you thought, here's a chance for the Cardinals to take the lead. Yadier Molina on at third base. Infield a step or two in. And Kelly Johnson threw Molina out.
Here's Ryan, a diving stop, the long throw, and not in time. Great effort from Brendan Ryan.
Well, what a play. Wow. I mean, to even make a play out of it. Diving, throwing from the seat of his pants.
Outstanding. Infield hit for Jay, and it brings in Peter Borges. Key at bat was Borges up, 1 out, 2 runners on, with one of them at third base. Could not bring him in. Molina was caught in a rundown, and Kuroda then struck out to Scalzo to get out of the second. David Freese, if you're wondering, is starting to come on a bit for the Angels. Couple of hits, RBIs the other night. Angels have played very good baseball at 29-22 and just 3.5 back of Oakland. As you talked about the other day, Josh Hamilton is close to returning. Put him in a lineup with Pujols, Trout, Freese, Hamilton. Best player, though, of that deal may be playing outfield in Memphis. That's Randall Grichuk. We saw him up for a moment.
Briefly. Yep.
And Cardinals love his power. Can play all 3 outfield spots. Great speed. Good arm. Cardinals will head to American League ballparks next week. That's a foul ball. And you could see an Oscar Taveras called up. You may see Randall Grichuk, DH in play.
Thing about bringing Oscar Taveras up is, where do you play him? What do you do with him? You can't sit him on the bench. He's got to play. He's not a good center fielder from what I understand. His position is right field. You can't move Alan Craig to first base with Matt Adams hitting .320. So what do you do? That's the dilemma facing John Mozeliak and the Cardinals.
2-2 to Borges. Johnson to first, and they get the speedy outfielder of St. Louis.
Well, that was a good play by Johnson at third, charging. It's a high five from Kuroda.
Speaking of Kuroda, the title of this graphic, well, we'll leave it up to you and what you think.
We had nothing to do with that graphic.
Hiroki Doki. Well, you're down by 7 runs. You got to think of something.
You got to laugh. Why not?
Hiroki Doki, and his numbers with the Dodgers and Yankees, as you saw in that graphic after reading Hiroki Doki, pretty similar in both spots. but a little bit more success with the New York Yankees. Keith O'Brien, working in our truck tonight, has been waiting to deliver that piece of info for 3 months.
And that's sad.
Here's an 0-1. Now 0-2.
Now that's a rokey dokey.
I'm not sure either one knows the score. Both having some fun. You know, that's the one thing when people talk about the time of the games. Now, I've never heard somebody at the stadium say, I'm not having a good time because this game's taking forever.
Yeah, you rarely hear fans talk about times of the game.
Ground ball past Ryan, who is near the bag at second base, and scoring. It's John Jay. The Cardinals get on the board. It's now 7-1. That snaps an 0 for 10.
You know, Dan, the quirky thing about Cardinal night, they've scored 1 run, but 2 odd things have happened to the shortstop for the Yankees, Brendan Ryan. He doesn't see this ball real well. John Jay blocks him out. Watch the jump by Ryan, flat-footed to his right. And Descalso with the first RBI of the night for the Cardinals.
Shelby Miller drops down a bunt, and it's enough to advance the runner. Certainly you could see if Mike Matheny wanted to pinch hit with Miller there and a runner on.
I think that is to your point last inning, that they need innings out of Miller. One more turn through the batting order, perhaps.
No question.
Yep.
Now it's Carpenter, who was struck out and also grounded out. 6 for 22 in this spot. Trying to extend his 9-game hitting streak. There's some bullpen, the Yankees, that has been outstanding as of late. Lead the major leagues overall in strikeouts, 195. No walks in the last 4 games. Their bullpen has appeared as Carpenter hits it out of play.
How many major league players do you know that don't wear a hitting glove?
The last one I can think about with batting gloves decided not to do it was John Mabry. And I think when I watch Matt Carpenter when he first came up, reminded me of Mabry, partially because of the gloves, but kind of tall, lanky, lefty.
Yeah, I wonder if John had an effect on Matt.
Matt said he's done it all his life. Always. Never wore batting gloves.
Evidently not.
Yeah. If you shake his hand, you might as well be shaking sandpaper.
Yeah.
Rough. The strikeout of Matt Carpenter. 3 tonight for Corona. Tomorrow the Giants will be in town. Off day for the Yankees as they head back to New York. Brings in Ichiro.
You know, Dan, I think there are at least some Cardinal fans out there listening to the game and saying, how can Mike Matheny not pinch hit for Shelby Miller in the bottom of the fourth with 1 on, 1 out, and the Cardinals trailing by 6? Whether managers like to admit it or not, there was a little part of them thinking, and you mentioned it early with the Giants coming in tomorrow, there's a little bit of the thinking of looking ahead because you're playing odds, and managers hate to do this, to leave a pitcher out there and see him get punished, and he has been punished for 2 of the first 4 innings. But there are just times when one more time through the order is required, and believe me, managers hate it for a lot of reasons.
Popped up off the bat of Ichiro. Descalso going out, makes the catch. Yeah, this is the last thing he wants to do with his young starter. There's no doubt. You know, he knows, though, no off days coming up. And the fact is, the starters have been better in terms of going deeper into games. But at times, this has been a bullpen that's been taxed. I'm sure some fans are saying, too, well, wait a minute. I hear what you're saying, but you are coming off a complete game last night.
That's true.
From Lance Lynn.
That's a valid point. Or that would be a valid point.
There's Brendan Ryan, who is 1 for 2. Brendan Ryan, if you're just joining us, starting at shortstop, Derek Jeter on the bench tonight for New York. I was thinking about this on the way into the ballpark today. You have been a part of the broadcast of some of the greatest games in the history of Derek Jeter's career. Those World Series appearances, the postseasons. What's his legacy when you think about it, in terms of just thinking about some of the moments, too, when you think about Derek Jeter?
The number one thing, if there could be just one thing, I'm playing tomorrow. When Derek Jeter toppled in the stands against the Red Sox with Nomar Garciaparra watching, and he came up with a bloody nose, that's what he said. He was removed from the game, and his first words were, I'm playing tomorrow. Plain and simple. And the next day, he started. More than anything else, his durability. He's so valuable in so many ways.
Fly ball out to left.
All-time leaders in games played. I'm playing tomorrow.
Look at that list. Mantle, Gehrig, Yogi, the Babe. This will be the 75th anniversary of Lou Gehrig's famous speech this year. I hope these fans here in St. Louis will get one more chance tonight to see him in action or to give him an ovation. And I think what Molina's done the last 2 nights has been so classy. Jeter's been the second man in the lineup, and after the first batter has done whatever Gardner has done in these games, Yadier Molina has walked about halfway out to the mound, fiddled with his spikes.
Yeah,
you know, range of the equipment, but we all know he was there to let Derek Jeter take in the moment. I wonder if it tugged at Jeter to make the announcement before the season. And I look at it two different ways. One, you get it out of the way. People are questioning whether or not you're going to retire. So you're not asked about it throughout the season. The problem is when you make that announcement, you know, he's the kind of guy that is always team first. And the focus of this season in many ways is on him. And he'd rather be on the team. There's a strikeout for Shelby Miller.
And to have everything de-emphasized as far as he was concerned. But that's not the case.
No. For you or your furry friend. It's compliments of Nestle Purina. Available to 25,000 pet lovers ages 16 and older. Get yours by purchasing tickets at cardinals.com/promotions. Wong, Holiday, and Craig, 7-1 Yankees. Colton Wong with a base hit into right field. Is also flied out to right. And is 1 for 2 tonight. I'm not sure which one's sleeping.
Leo the Lip.
You got it.
I can't help but think in a bizarre way about Johnny Keane, the manager of the Cardinals. In 1964, the Cardinals win it. He goes to become the manager of the Yankees. Yogi Berra's fired because the Cardinals had hired Leo DeRocher, or Leo the Lip, to a $50,000 contract. I know that's a reach, folks, but I couldn't help it.
Only you could segue out of that scene that we just saw to Leo the Lip.
Well, I thought of Leo DeRocher.
That's good. Wong hits it out to deep right, and it's off the top of the wall. Standing up at second base, 2-hit night. Oh, I got to tell you, that was well played. Well played, I'm telling you.
Speaking of well played, Colton Wong, since his return, we talked about it earlier. We talked about it last night. The defensive plays, we had that on the opening tonight. And I mean, he turns on this ball, and you don't realize how strong he is. He's short in stature, but powerful in his build, and he misses a home run by about a foot.
Leadoff double. Now Holiday. 1 for 2 tonight with a single to center field. Chops it foul. We were talking about how strong Holiday is, and it's one of the players that will not reduce the ounces in his bat later in the season. And Stan Musial used to do that. not sure if you knew that, but I'm sure you did.
I did, yeah. Stan used a very, very small bat, about 31 ounces, 31 and a half max. Whoa.
By the end of the season, these guys, understandably so, worn out. They'll go with a lighter bat. Here's a 1-1. Hit sharply to second. Roberts makes the play. We're talking about Babe Ruth, the tie-in to the Cardinals in the World Series over the years. The tie-in with Stan Musial is that Babe Ruth came to do an exhibition when he was in Rochester. And Stan Musial was in the minor leagues briefly. And when Stan passed, the family went through a number of cabinets that were locked up for years. Had no idea about them. And what did they find? A picture of he and Ruth and a ball signed by the Babe. How about that?
Man.
Also a letter from Ty Cobb written to Stan. Strike one on Craig.
I had heard about that. Didn't they meet at the Hall of Fame?
Correct.
Right.
And I read the letter, by the way. I saw it. The letter is a little rough in the beginning. Some colorful language from Cobb. And by the end of it, absolutely praising Stan the Man. RBI number 27 for Craig. Cardinal fans, Hyatt Regency St. Louis at the Arch offering an incredible Cardinals package this season that includes overnight accommodations, tickets to a weekend home game, Louisville Slugger bat, and more. stlouisarch.hyatt.com. Also found, Tim, a book that Stan kept and facing some of the toughest pitchers of his era. No one knew that he ever kept a baseball diary, so to speak, as Molina pops it foul, and just some of the ways that he would approach certain guys of that era, in particular lefties. It was incredible. And if you're a baseball fan and having a chance to get in the mind of Stan the Man and his approach, remarkable.
Did he talk about the toughest left-hander he faced?
Did not. It was more about approach and how certain guys were trying to set him up and what he did in certain counts. That 64 team that you were on, well, first year without Stan the Man. Then a guy named Brock came in, became an all-century player. He had Mickey Mantle, Whitey Ford, Yogi Berra, Bob Gibson, Lou Brock, Tim McCarver, all part of the Hall of Fame now and all part of 64. One thing I wanted to say to Gibson the other day, but I didn't want to get in trouble. He was in a good mood. I said, what I would have liked to have said is, you know, really, you took McCarver's Corvette. He's the MVP. You hit 478 that series.
You were right in not saying that. Your antenna went off correctly. It's really been an emotional packed week, though. Derek Jeter and the Yankees in town, and the celebration of the 64th series, 64 series.
And a base hit from Molina.
And everything, and then celebrating back to business for the Cardinals. Winning last night. Molina ripping that glove off, and now the very upset. You rarely see Yachty show his emotions to that degree.
I'm sure his frustrations go back to the previous at bat. Bases loaded, crowd on their feet, popped out to end the inning. Maybe that carrying over to this at bat.
Yeah.
Now it's John Jay on base twice. Infield hit. Diving stop by Brendan Ryan, beat it out, and then reached on an error by Brendan Ryan.
Remember John Madden's line about defensive backs. If they're beaten on a play, they have to forget. Part of their job is to forget what happened. And the same's true in baseball or basketball or whatever competitive sport you're playing. And there are those with the ability to forget that continue. You just can't let it carry over. Pitching, hitting, fielding, whatever it is.
I think you're describing Colton Wong to an extent earlier this year. Admittedly, very, very tough on himself. One-two is hit out of play again. Two all-stars right there. Yadier Molina leading all catchers in the National League in a vote tally that just came out today. Derek Jeter, by the way, leading for New York at shortstop. Another 1-2 pitch. Hit out to center. Ellsbury. Molina's 2 for 3. Cardinals have 7 hits, but they trail 7-2. The Cardinals have ever had. Rookie season was just tremendous, and then the meltdown of 2000. Rick Ankiel will be part of the pregame show tomorrow in his own words, followed by the Giants and the Cardinals. This throw here, Tim, was unbelievable, and he had 2 of them in the same game in Colorado. Rick Ankiel, in his own words, possessed great power. Obviously, a cannon for an arm. And he said just recently, for the first time, he watched his meltdown of 2000 for the first time very closely. And he'll talk about that. Remember, Mike Matheny was the catcher at the time.
Sure.
He had cut his hand on a hunting knife, and Matheny was not the catcher for postseason. Tony La Russa to this day, as Kuroda will face Sam Freeman into the ball game. Tony La Russa believes if Mike Matheny would have been behind the plate, those issues may not have come up. Who knows? Chevy called to the pen, Sam Freeman. I do know this, it was tough to watch.
It's tough to watch on television.
Rick really at peace too, which I talked to him at length.
He had an extraordinary career. When you,
Oh.
I mean, I know it was strange in the whole bit and the pitching woes, but it was in many ways extraordinary to pick himself back up and to try it as an outfielder and play in the major leagues as an outfielder. I choose to look on the positive side of that whole thing, and I would imagine Rick's doing the same thing.
Exactly.
You know,
he's writing a book about it.
Oh, he is.
Yeah, he's going to have a book that comes out within the next year. He has had offers to do a movie, and he's debating that. But he told me the reason that he did the book. There's a ground ball off the bat of Kuroda on a 2-2 pitch. Was that to follow up your point? He would like to help others that have been in, situations that seem dire. And he said, and he had a pretty tough upbringing too. There were some things in the past that were not easy.
Yep.
And he said he wants to help a lot of people with the book, and so that's coming out. He's at peace not being a part of baseball. He's got 2 little boys, fishes every day down near Jupiter, Florida, and happy with life.
It's turned into a wonderful story,
yes,
and didn't necessarily have to turn into one. But because of the man, it has.
You give him all the credit. Coming back, doing what he did. Cardinals would put him in the back fields at Jupiter, away from the media, away from other teammates, to see if he could get it right. Then when he came back, the pitch that he could throw, basically the only pitch he could throw was a breaking ball. And so here he is spinning it off every single pitch. He has Tommy John, comes back again, control not there, then becomes the outfielder, and rest is history as Gardner grounds out to short, or rather second. Next time you're looking to pick up great seats to the game, head to StubHub. You can earn 2% back in fan rewards. StubHub, your ticket to upgrades and more. Brings in Brian Roberts, who has scored a pair of runs, 2 for 3 tonight. Tony La Russa always so stoic in the dugout. Sunglasses at night, and one of the only times I've seen him smile, clapping, excited, and really showing it outwardly was the night that Ankiel made his return to the big leagues and hit a home run. Here's a 2-0. Timmy also said, and I don't blame him, he said just about every team has called him and said, hey, if you want to give it a shot on the mound again, we got a spot for you. You just let us know. Tough night for Shelby Miller. 7 runs, 9 hits, walked 2, struck out just 1. And a 2-out walk to Roberts brings in Ellsbury. Jacoby has had a big night. See how this plays out. It's a 7-2 game. Freeman is due up third for the Cardinals. You'd have to think that Seth Maness would need a little work. That pitch tails in.
Yeah, certainly with 1 on, and definitely with 2 on, you'll see a pinch hitter. Because this was not a double switch variety when Sam came into the game.
Issue with Sam Freeman at times has been just finding the strike zone. Walks Live arm, he throws mid-90s. An improving off-speed pitch. He's been up and down from the minor leagues last couple of seasons. Kevin Segrist, as Jim Hayes reported last night, making progress with a sore forearm, but they're going to be awfully cautious with him. The 2-1. Left center. Peter Borges calling off Holiday, and he makes the catch. We're midway through 6, Game 3, the Yankees and the Cardinals. New York on top. Is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy, helping recognize those who, despite their own needs, put others first. And head to Jack in the Box and try the new Jack's Blazing Chicken Sandwich. It's Jack's hottest sandwich yet. 7-2 lead for the Yankees. Between innings, made the final catch of the inning, and new fan as well. Borges leads it off. Shows bunt. Looks at a strike. Kuroda pitching into the 6th inning, and he has been pretty sharp here tonight. 7 hits allowed, but no walks. He struck out 3. I want to go back, Tim, to what you were talking about with his delivery. We see a lot of the Japanese pitchers with this type of delivery, which is,
that's true,
the hesitation at the top.
Yeah. Even the Deo Nomo, the tornado would turn, so the hesitation was there after the turn.
Second baseman Roberts makes the play. What's on Tap is brought to you by Budweiser. The team that's off to a great start, the San Francisco Giants. And it's the first of 4 beginning tomorrow. Al Raboski and Rick Horton will have that for you. Ryan Vogelsong and Jaime Garcia. Budweiser, What's on Tap? Rick and Al right here on Fox Sports Midwest. Descalso with an RBI base hit, and his second hit tonight, 2 for 3.
Yeah, now Sam was going to hit with 2 outs and nobody on, but he was called back to the dugout. Mike Matheny having to make a move. Groda should think otherwise with that reaching that bare hand up, unless he was just playing. They do call it playing ball, don't they?
They do.
I see Brian McCann, as you said earlier, Dan, had never started a game at first base. And in 1973, I returned to the Cardinals, and I tried to play first base, and I'll be as objective as I can be, okay? I was awful. And I mean awful.
Be fair to yourself.
And I am. Oh, I'm being more than
that
fair.
Bad.
Believe me, it was bad.
There's Johnny Peralta, the pinch hitter, and the question
And
becomes why.
And I told Brian McCann before the game, this in the Yankee dugout tonight, I said, when I was playing first base, anything in the dirt I was trained to block. So I did it. I never caught the ball. I blocked it. Honestly, I'm telling you.
And how about the ball coming off the bat, especially from a left-hander?
Unless the ball landed in the glove, I didn't catch it. I'm not kidding you. I blocked a lot of balls at first base.
Back to Corona, who goes to second, on to first, not in time. They throw it away, but it stays in play.
But I mean, Brian was kind of shaking his head, kind of understanding.
Right.
Exactly, because catchers are trained for balls in the dirt to block. They're not trained unless it's a reaction.
Sure.
They're not trained to catch them. So long nights over at that position.
I bet. AT&T fan photo. I would think too, Tim, that if you're Joe Girardi, you've got Brian McCann. He has signed a long-term deal. He's your #1 catcher. You're kind of forced into this spot because you want to give Jeter a night off, so you play Brendan Ryan at shortstop.
You got Teixeira out. He's
Teixeira
not quite
can't play.
ready yet, right?
You're thinking, let's just get through the game. Don't get hurt. Don't get hurt.
Right.
You know, and really, it's a dilemma for any manager when you play a player out of position.
Right. Brian took a foul tip off his fingers of his right hand last night. Girardi wanting to give him a night off of that, having a reoccurrence of that.
And you also pointed out during the game there was a swing. You may remember when McCann, it looked like he grimaced and then.
Yeah, that's right.
And he's
in
had back issues.
Yeah, right.
So it's another chance to get him away from behind the plate. And he is a good player. And they could ill afford to lose him. 2 balls, no strikes on Matt Carpenter. Now 3-0.
Hey, the way Wong's swinging the bat, if Carpenter can get on and Wong pop one, we don't know.
Still a long ways to go. Shelby Miller gave the Cardinals 5 innings, but allowed 7 runs, all earned. 3-0 pitch, 3-1.
We talked about predictable pitches the last time Carpenter was up. It's easier to hit when you're trailing by a lot of runs because the pitcher doesn't want to walk you. So on a 3-1 count, here's a chance for Carpenter to get a ball to drive, look inside and pop it. Treat it like batting practice.
Here it comes. Good rip. There's a ball in the previous at bat that he let go by, and you talked about, you know, that's the one you want to see him maybe be a little bit more aggressive with. But as we talked about, that really isn't his style, and how do you argue with what he did a year ago?
That's exactly right.
Brian McCann with 2 outs, count full, will play behind Peralta. Maybe needs to move a step or 2 back, and I'm sure he will with the pitch. Now he starts to go back, and here comes a 3-2. Carpenter drives it out to center. Ellsbury on the move. He won't get it. It's down. Peralta will score. And it's an RBI double for Matt Carpenter. Cuts into the lead. It's now 7-3.
That ball just drilled the center field. Jacoby Ellsbury making a great play on Carpenter in last night's game, middle of the track toward right center field, and Ellsbury can't get to it. You know, as Kuroda is out of there, it just struck me that the Yankees scoring those 7 runs in 2 innings, it seemed like there were more. And now, you know, you don't know. Walk in a blast, who knows?
11th double for Carpenter, picks up his 17th RBI. Joe Girardi goes to his pen. It's not going to help. But the binky sends you on your way.
Yeah.
Here's the lefty, Matt Thornton, and our Chevy call to the pen. They have one lefty, and Joe Girardi says, well, let's use him right here against Colton Wong.
Matt did very well in game 1, coming into the game and retiring 2 lefties. And facing another. And I think Colton Wong right now, all of a sudden, is the Cardinals' hottest hitter.
Yes. 2 for 3 tonight with a single and a double. Takes a pitch high. Base hit here potentially puts it at 7-4. Still a ways to go in this game. One ball, one strike. Wong hitting 167 against lefties. That pitch taken high. Looking for his first RBI against left-handed pitching. Back to Thornton, off his glove. No play. Runners at the corners for Holiday. Matt Thornton would love that one back.
glove side. He couldn't see that ball.
The way he was ready to field it, almost like a changeup coming back to him.
Maybe, yeah.
So Joe Girardi back to his pen. Holiday due up with 2 runners on. Starting to get interesting. Difference maker. Last 13 games, runs per game have been up. Team ERA has gone down. And the Cardinals face now Betances, the right-hander, who is 6'8", 260. And as we saw the other day, Tim, or Chevy called to the pin, what a nasty slider he possesses.
Yeah, it's got to be tough on a young catcher, too. The youngest in the major leagues, John Ryan Murphy, on that slider. If it's as nasty to Matt Holliday as it was the other night, Matt striking out on a 3-2 slider in the dirt, that's something to keep in mind. But again, if the Cardinals can get a key hit here in a gap, then you close the game to a doable 2-run game.
Betances with 51 strikeouts as Holiday hits it into left center on the first pitch, and the catch is made by Gardner. One pitch gets out of the jam. 7-3 New York. Rough start for Shelby Miller. 7 total runs in the third and the fourth. The Cardinals 1 run in each of the last 3 innings. MLB at bat. Follow every Cardinals game. Download it at Cardinals.com. They just had on the video board here at the ballpark, Seth Maness is our Chevy Colt to the pen. He'll face McCann and then Murphy along with Ichiro. 19th appearance, but Adam Wainwright, Jason Mott, grew up a Yankees fan, and also Yadier Molina wishing Derek Jeter all the best, and then the cameras found Derek in that dugout. A nice ovation.
And prolonged, say 45 seconds or so.
.20 pitch, hit out of play.
Hope you don't find this remark tasteless, but it's got to be hard on Derek Jeter trying to play. I mean, he's talking about winning the game in Chicago the other day.
Right.
It's a very difficult thing to announce your retirement and then have to go through 6 months of playing.
Well hit, left center. Borges back with room.
And trying to win. And not worrying about a double switch when you're playing in a National League town in the late innings.
Tim, to further your point, it was a game at Wrigley Field, and the crowd gave him a standing ovation, and they wanted a curtain call. And the Yankees were trailing, and he did not go out to acknowledge the crowd, and he was asked about it after the game. Here's John Ryan Murphy, and he said simply because it's not about me and my team was trailing. It wouldn't have been the right thing to do. That kind of sums him up, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I mean, any minute, like Derek Jeter, means things. There would be some players who would say something. Well, a lot of players wouldn't do that. Wouldn't stay in the dugout if his team was trailing, and he's in his last year. Not a lot of players, but some.
A ball and 2 strikes.
It's almost his baseball ability takes a back seat to his other abilities, the way he handles himself, his elegance, his style, his lack of flash. That's flashy.
For the most part, he stayed off the back pages in New York for the most part.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
How many guys that have been able to handle the media as well as he has in New York? I mean, certainly there's been some. He is the starting shortstop for arguably the world's greatest franchise in one of their greatest runs, at a time that media has never been as big than right now. And yet here he is, the face of their franchise and really the face of a generation of the Yankees.
Yeah, from a media perspective, he's never taken the bait.
Well put. Two and two the count. You mentioned it last night. Seth Maness, sinker baller. More he pitches, probably better success.
Yeah, because sinker ballers, if they're too strong, they have a tendency to get the ball up. It straightens out. They don't like that. They don't want to do that. That's not their purpose.
Did not have a great spring, carried over to the early portion of the season, and exactly what you're talking about. Many pitches were up. He came in and arrived on the scene last year, and it seemed like it was automatic. He would come in, runner at first, ground ball, double play, and he racked up those double plays quickly.
More than any other reliever in the major leagues.
That pitch was up but got away with it. Strikes out Murphy. The names we mentioned earlier, Derek Jeter, part of this list, the core four, all came up in 1995. In their final season, this is what they did. Posada, 235, did hit 14 home runs. Rivera last year, 44 saves. Pettit, 500 record, and the numbers thus far for Derek Jeter. Mariano Rivera finished with 652 career saves. Trevor Hoffman at 601, then Lee Smith, former Cardinal, at 478. John Franco, 424. Manus, a 1-2-3 inning. Time to stretch. Another reason that Derek Jeter is a fan favorite. Well, he found a Yankee fan. Signing autographs. All in a day's work. In favor of the Yankees, even though the Cardinals about hit New York 10-9. Story tonight, Shelby Miller wasn't sharp. 5 innings, 9 hits, 7 earned, walked 2, 1 strikeout. And Colton Wong a good night, 3 for 4. Adam Warren, a right-hander, out of the pen for New York. Chevy called to the pen. Joe Girardi looking at that 6th inning, Tim, as if to say, this is the game right here. He used his only lefty and his nasty right-hander to face one hitter.
Joe Girardi treating the 6th inning like it were the 9th inning. No question about it. Zoilo Almonte in right field now. Ichiro not in the game. A double switch employed by Joe Girardi.
Alan Craig, Yadier Molina, and John Jay. Craig robbed by Ellsbury on a sliding catch in the 2nd. Hit by a pitch in the 3rd. RBI ground out in the 5th. And that RBI was number 27 for Alan Craig. And a breaking ball, a good one for strike one. Underway here in the home half of the seventh. The Cardinals with 120 wins at home since 2012. Best record at home since 2012, but in jeopardy of dropping this series to New York. Mike Matheny's first season. One went away from the World Series. Last year making it to the World Series. The high fly ball out to deep right. Almonte is back and makes the play. Welcome into the game. Second on that list, the Atlanta Braves, then the A's. Nobody really talks about Oakland, and then Detroit Tigers at Comerica.
Anytime Alan Craig, reminding St. Louis fans of David Freese, hits a ball into that area out there, you know exactly what Cardinal fans are thinking. David Freese hitting the ball over Nelson Cruz's head for a triple. I know I thought about it when I saw the ball go out there. That was the type ball that Freese hit that night in Game 7 that tied the game. In Game 6, I beg your pardon.
I was right there with you.
Yeah, man.
A ball that probably, in retrospect, should have been caught.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, if you're playing to prevent defense and a no doubles defense, which you should have been, and Nelson Cruz wasn't. And then when Josh Hamilton hit the 2-run home run the next half inning.
What are you thinking now?
Same thing. There it is again, like a replay. But then Josh Hamilton hits a home run, the 2-run shot in the top of the 10th, and everybody in America, Japan, the Far East, it's over. This game is history. And somehow, some way, the Cardinals come back and tie it on Berkman's hit in the center field. Unbelievable. I mean, that game it cannot happen.
But it did.
But it did.
David Freese, Tony La Russa later saying, and he had the triple and the home run. And Tony, it's great. He was talking to us afterwards, and there's a walk to Molina. He said he was this close. He put his index finger and thumb about as close as you can without touching. He said I was this close to benching David Freese in the division series against the Phillies. And then Freese against Roy Oswalt had a breakout game.
Yeah.
And never looked back, because we also forget he was the MVP of the NLCS against Milwaukee.
Right. That's exactly right.
He had a tremendous series. And he said, I was driving to the ballpark. I'm thinking of benching David Freese. And he said, it's the best decision I made not to bench him. Foul ball. Awfully close.
Well, it was so close that Angel Hernandez gave the wrong sign for a foul ball. I mean, it should be facing home plate and both arms up. And I don't know if we have a shot of Angel Hernandez, but if we don't, he was pointing both hands into foul territory, and that means nothing, really. That's how close it was. Watch the first base umpire, Angel Hernandez. Both hands are pointed to foul territory, but that's not the foul ball sign.
No. 1-1 to Jay.
I didn't know that about Tony La Russa and benching David Freese. That's great.
Close. Yep. Then David just went on a tear, and rest is history.
You mean number 6?
Yes, sir.
David Freese wearing number 6 for the Angels in honor of Stan Musial.
Hard hit, and it eats up the second baseman Roberts. What should have been a double play. And Roberts had a tough night in game 2. The ball that got by him led to a couple of runs. And this inning is extended. Up to Borges to extend the inning. 0 for 3, average at 212. I mean, you love the speed of Peter Borges as that ball scoots through. And Yachty advancing to third, but he's a guy historically in his career doesn't draw a lot of walks.
Nor does he hit a lot of balls on the ground either,
exactly,
to utilize the speed. That ball clearly getting through the wickets on Murphy. Molina goes to third base.
One ball, one strike. A lost start, keeping score at the ballpark. Two-one pitch. Into right, Almonte. Borges hitless in 4 at-bats tonight. 7-3 Yankees. Midwest, let's go to our studio and a Bomberito Sports Update with Pat Paris. All right, thank you. Yankees with a lead of 7-3 as we move to the 8th. Second inning of work for Seth Maness. Brendan Ryan on the first pitch, a base hit into center. A 2-hit night and a good series for Brendan Ryan.
I was thinking the same thing. You saw him a lot more than I did, Dan, but you don't see Brendan Ryan having the authority with the bats on three consecutive nights. I mean, he's hit some balls hard
front foot. Familiar look, the toe tap, and then let it rip. The thing the Yankees have talked about is that he has really shortened his swing. In Seattle, his swing got very, very long, playing every day.
You shorten your swing when you shorten your stride. And as you could see with that stride, he picked his left foot up and put it right back down in the same spot.
Now Kelly Johnson single to center back in the fourth. Yankees have 2 steals tonight with no throws by Yadier Molina.
Now, some of you folks may not know that the first base coach delivers a wink with one eye or 2 eyes on a stolen base. Almost all runners at first base, unless they're guys that steal on their own, depend on the first base coach. You could see Brendan Ryan looking at Mick Kelleher. Even though Mick shook his head, yes, you don't know, but the way to put it on is just a wink at the runner.
Base hit out to left. First 2 have reached here in the 8th against Seth Maness.
It's universal in baseball, and you might say, well, how can the defense not pick something up like that? Well, the first baseman's too concerned with the pitcher throwing over there. He doesn't want to get hit in the coconut, you know, looking at the first base coach to see whether he's winking or not.
Watch out for that pickoff move.
Yeah.
Maness in a little bit of trouble now with runners at first and second. Almonte now in the 9th spot in this lineup, took over in right for Ichiro, his first plate appearance tonight.
Before this year's out, Tom Mee is going to get some first base coach winking. I will guarantee you. Book it.
He's on it, believe me.
Yes, sir. Sure is.
Tom Mee, our director, Mike Helling, our producer, Brian McCann, Keith O'Brien, Danny Martinez, and the rest of our crew. I don't know about you, Tim, but the more I watch the Yankees and think about the potential of their lineup, the more I think that they could win the East.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
This is a good club.
This is one of the few years that
Monte, little ground ball. Maness can't find it. Bases loaded.
I was going to say one of the few years, probably an error on Maness, but one of the few years that the Yankees have that underdog status, and they're better than a lot of people think they're going to be, because they have rarely had the same team on the field so far this year.
Randy Choate had a tough game in game 1 of this series. So come in to face Gardner with the bases loaded, nobody out when we come back. And by Ford, the official cars and trucks of the St. Louis Cardinals. Along with Jim Hayes, Tim McCarver, Dan McLaughlin with you. It's 7-3. And the Yankees have the bases loaded here in the top of the 8th. Randy Choate, our Chevy Colt, to the pen. His 21st appearance. Number 20 was a tough one. He came in extra innings and walked Jacoby Ellsbury, then hit Brian McCann, and that opened the door for the Yankees. They eventually won that game 6-4 in 12. Infield in. Gardner has walked tonight. He pulls it foul. Randy Choate, a former Yankee, has bounced around a bit. Miami, Los Angeles, now with St. Louis. Inside.
You're the hitter in a situation like this, knowing a pitcher wants to get a ground ball. Normally it's with the fastball. 2 fastballs, 1 missing, 1 inside.
1-1 pitch. Strike 2. You could have a scenario here where Mike Matheny would stick with Randy Choate for the next 4 hitters. 3 of the next 4 hitting from the left side. Randy's role in St. Louis has been unique and maybe to an extent foreign to him, because more times than not, look back in his career, it's been 1 or 2 hitters, but this year it's been extended innings, right-handed batters. Check swing did not go.
Randy getting ahead with the fastball, and then thinking he maybe needed a strikeout, and Brett Gardner held up. Good call.
2-2, nobody out, bases loaded. How about those numbers for Gardner? .339 against lefties.
Yeah.
He is a good player, isn't he?
He really is.
The big names in this lineup, often overlooked, is Brett Gardner.
People have a tendency to think he's small. He's not a small man. He's 5'10", 190.
The 2-2. Got him. Strikeout for Randy Choate.
So Randy getting ahead with the fastball, and then getting Gardner finally with the breaking ball. Now the infield's about halfway, even though Roberts still a very fast runner. Again, if the ball's hit sharply, they go for 2. If it's not, they come home.
Ryan Roberts on base 3 times. He's grounded into 7 double plays, the most on this Yankees roster. Owner of 6 career grand slams. Departure of Robinson, Cano. The Yankees go out, scoop up Ryan Roberts. Know him quite well from his days in the American League East. And he's ahead in the count. Watch out here. 2 balls and no strikes. Three-0. Inning started with a base hit by Brendan Ryan to center. Base hit by Johnson to left. Almonte reached on the air by Manus. Strikeout of Gardner, and now Choate falls behind. 3 balls and no strikes on Brian Roberts. Swinging away, and it could be two. Out at second, double play. Randy Choate comes in with the bases loaded, nobody out, and does not allow a run. Yankees on top of St. Louis. Matt Carpenter, the Nissan drive of the game. And for Matt Carpenter, 11th double of the season. He also picked up an RBI in that drive, and that was in the 6th inning. The Nissan drive of the game. Second inning of work for Warren. And it's Descalso. Choate spot, then Matt Carpenter. And a strike. What a funny game it is, huh?
Oh, we were talking about it between innings. I mean, a 3-0 pitch, and Brian Roberts with a rocket to third turned nicely. Matt Carpenter making a fine play on the ball, and they had Roberts by 3 feet. And double play situations are the oddest of situations in baseball because you want a guy to hit the ball hard but at somebody. So do you make too good a pitch on him? Well, Randy Choate did. That was a 3-0 fastball. Everybody in the world knew it was coming, and he hits a one-hopper to Matt Carpenter, who turns it into a double play.
1-2 the count on Descalso. 2-hit night for the Cardinals shortstop. And you're Joe Girardi. You give the green light. He's a veteran. You're putting trust in him.
Sure.
And you've got a lefty that's throwing 84 miles an hour, and you're saying, hey, if you swing, just make sure it's a good pitch to drive.
That's right.
And he does it.
He did and did.
And hits right into a double play.
It's exactly what Randy Choate wanted.
Another foul ball. One hop, turn 2. As you said, they got him by 2-3 steps.
Yeah.
1-2 the count on Descalso. Mark Ellis has moved to the on-deck circle. A pinch hit for Randy Choate. Popped up, out of play.
Dan, earlier you talked about the prowess of the Yankee bullpen in striking out batters. They lead the majors in strikeouts with 195, and they don't walk a lot of guys either.
Right.
That's a deadly combination, and a good one from a Yankee standpoint of getting guys out.
Cardinals have received one walk tonight. That was back in the 7th. Molina against this pitcher Warren. And a ground ball slowly hit to third. Low throw and picked by McCann. Warren made his debut with the Yankees in 2012. Appeared in just one game. Made a spot start. Last year 2 starts and 34 total appearances. 6'1", 200 pounds. And Joe Girardi out to visit. We're talking about Derek Jeter handling the media, and your very good friend Joe Torre, remarkable at handling the media, the run of the Yankees, but also handling ownership to an extent.
No, absolutely.
The boss.
The New York media and the boss. Talk about caught in a vice. Joe Torre's going to have his number retired. That's how good he was.
All right, I get to put you on the spot. You ready? You're not, but you're going to say you are. I'm putting words into your mouth. Here's an 0-1 pitch to Margelis. I'm curious if you think Joe Torre could be or would want to be the next commissioner of Major League Baseball.
Could he be? Yes. Is he a long shot? Yes, I think. I'm not too sure Joe wants that job.
Some even said Tony La Russa. Now he's with the Arizona Diamondbacks.
So Tony's out.
Goodbye out of Tony.
Right.
Now running that franchise, the baseball side of it. CBA that is up is 2016.
I think if this were 10 years ago and that job were up, I think Joe Torre would have been interested. Of course, 10 years ago, he was the manager of the Yankees. So
with some pretty good players in their prime.
Yeah.
3-2. When he was in St. Louis, it was just at that point in time, they just weren't going out signing players. And any manager, any baseball person would tell you, you've got to have the horses to win. Some tough years. Ellis hits a high fly ball out to left. The best interleague record all time. Yankees at .591. Interleague play began in 1998. Red Sox, Angels, White Sox, and A's. So all American League teams. With the top 2 from the American League East.
And the Oakland Athletics. They're always nudging themselves into a winning category somewhere, aren't they?
They are. Whether you buy into Moneyball or not, or how Billy Beane conducts business, you can't argue with the success he's had.
Well, the thing about Moneyball is it did mention those 3 great pitchers, Tim Hudson, Barry Zito, and Mark Mulder. Nary a mention in the movie or the book. The book, a little bit, but the movie, forget about it.
It's funny, I've always said that. Give me Hudson, Zito, Mulder. I got a pretty good chance to win.
I guarantee you. And they did.
Yes, they did. And they're doing it now. top National League team, if you're wondering, in interleague play. Your St. Louis Cardinals. The Angels, you looked at that graphic, they had a really good run under Mike Scioscia, early 2000s. That was a very good team.
2002 world champions, beating the San Francisco Giants.
That team featured a couple of players that eventually wound up in St. Louis. Won an MVP of the 2006 World Series, David Eckstein. The other being Scott Spezio. One and two on Matt Carpenter. 2 outs, nobody on. And that's a base hit. 2-hit night for Carpenter. He's headed to second. Both hits have been a double.
That was one of those make-a-wish slides into second base. Very dangerous play in a game like this. That properly going. Just check it out. The right foot goes by the bag and the left foot hangs on. That appears to be all right.
Well, the double switch here. We'll tell you about the changes when we come back. 7-3 New York. Be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the St. Louis Cardinals. A double switch as Robertson is into the game. David Robertson, our Chevy called to the pen, and he'll go to the second spot in the lineup for the Yankees. And then Solarte, who's a natural second baseman. We've seen him at third in this series. He'll move to the sixth spot in the lineup for New York.
Those of you folks who may not know, there are no double switches in the American League because of the designated hitter. So for the most part, there may be a form of it occasionally, but for the most part, the National League is exclusively the league that double switches. Maybe stating the obvious, but some folks may not know.
Yeah, the traditional double switch with your pitcher and the spots in the lineup, allowing you to get a little leeway, if you will, in terms of putting a position player in the previous pitcher's spot if that spot is coming up, and then taking out the position player and putting the pitcher in that spot of the hitter position player that was just used. Hopefully that explains it.
Yeah.
Good night for Kolten Wong. 3 hits, 2 singles, a double off the wall, and scored a run back in the 5th. Yankees always wondered about life after Mariano Rivera. They're finding out this year.
It's a rare combination for any closer to have that fastball curveball combination. You don't see that often anymore. It's fastball splitter, fastball cutter like Rivera.
Up the middle, off the glove of Robertson into center. Here comes Carpenter. Have a night, Kolten Wong. It's 7-4.
How about Kolten Wong? 4 hits on the night. And this was close. Get down David Robertson, he does. And the Cardinals tack on another. Now a 3-run ball game.
Joe Girardi doing something here that you don't see a lot of managers do, which is asking their closer to get the final 4 outs or more than an inning in a save. First career 4-hit night for Kolten Wong, and there's that good breaking ball from Robertson, who by the way has 11 saves, 15 innings pitched. He has struck out 23, and opponents hitting just 182 against him. But with the off day tomorrow, you stretch out your closer here.
Pitch inside like that to open up the outside part of the plate. Talked about it last night. Not every pitch is designed to get you out. It may get you out, but it's not designed that last fastball in off the plate, setting up the outside breaking ball.
And there it was. Yankees talk about Robertson and his legs, where he gets his drive and his calves. There's a good look at it. They say that his lower half is as strong as anybody's on this team, and the drive of the back leg towards the plate. Two and two the count on Holiday.
David Robertson's hometown, a city of big cabs. University of Alabama plays down there.
Down and in. The last thing he wants to do is bring the tying run to the plate in Allen Craig. And yet it's that fine line of giving a slugger like Holiday a pitch to hit.
Yeah, right.
Three-two pitch. And a called third strike on Holiday. So Robertson strikes out Matt Holiday. That ends the threat. 7-4 Yankees. Cardinals started playing tonight, 3.5 games back of Milwaukee. Check that, game and a half back of Milwaukee. Milwaukee playing host to Baltimore as Jason Mott is into the game for St. Louis. Mott really could be a big key for the Cardinals throughout this season. Ellsbury, 1 pitch, 1 away. And a key to his success, as we mentioned the other night, will be his velocity. Can he get it back to close to where it was prior to the injury? And you know, at this point we've seen 92 to 94. There's Carlos Martinez, the Trevor Rosenthal.
Yeah, there are many guys around the game, Dan, that just throw the radar gun away, realizing that velocity is not the thing that gets most hitters out. But in Jason Mott's case, velocity is very important because it's not only going to show how hard he throws, but how much stronger he's getting to be the same guy he was a couple of years ago.
2-0 the count on Brian McCann. We forget Jason Mott led the league in saves 2 years ago.
Right, former catcher.
And it was Derek Lilliquist that at that time when he was in the minor leagues delivered the news to Jason Mott that, well, we've made a decision. You can't hit a curveball, but you can throw. That's off his glove. The shift was on. Can't get it out of the glove in the transition. And safe at first is Brian McCann. To finish the thought, it was Jason Mott that went back to Derek Lilliquist and said, give me one more chance. And they said, well, think about it, but if you want to continue to play professional baseball, we're putting you on the mound. And you think about how quickly he got to the big leagues. It was a quick transition from catcher to pitcher.
Amazing.
Minor leagues to the big leagues. Now Murphy. A single and 2 RBIs in the third. 1 for 4 on the night.
Normally, I guess in years past, it seemed like the most likely guys defensively to become pitchers, position players, were shortstops, because if they couldn't hit, because they had stronger arms, because the arm in the hole, or a center fielder.
But I think we've seen it more and more with the catchers.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, the Cardinals had a guy, and there's a strikeout. You may remember, Tim, David Carpenter, who is now pitching for the Atlanta Braves, who actually was part of a deal to bring John Farrell to Boston. So he was part of the transaction, if you will, of Farrell to become the manager. But bounced around a little bit, wound up in Atlanta last year, and had just a tremendous lights-out season. Hard thrower, but same deal.
Yeah.
Couldn't hit. Cardinals said, well, let's try you as a pitcher. Then bounced around and now has found a home. You know, Mott has really tried to incorporate a cutter to go with the fastball. And it's no surprise to anybody that digs in there. They know it's a fastball, or at least working on, and maybe a modified cutter, slider. There's a ground ball off the bat of Solarte, and good work by Jason Mott. Final home for St. Louis coming up. It's 7-4 Yankees. It's Colton Wong, 4 for 5, and we started our telecast during the open, Tim, talking about his defensive last night. And how about his offense here tonight?
Oh, boy. Well, I don't think you can say it enough that he is a different player since returning from AAA Memphis.
Just even the way he carries himself.
The way he runs the bases.
Yeah.
The way he pivots around second base. The way he moves.
You mentioned how he runs the bases, and he was the one, and you broke it down very well, in which there was a ball that got past the catcher. If you're a runner at second base, tough to see it get by the catcher or even an umpire. If you're playing with no confidence, you don't make that play.
No, that's right. That's exactly right. Remember that comment the other day we were talking about? If I were a farm director, I would tell young players to forget the 2 words, be careful. Colton Wong is not being careful now. He's playing to his ability. He's living up to the instincts, the reason he was the #1 draft choice. When he started the season, he was being careful.
It's a good way to put it.
When you're careful not to make a mistake, it's amazing how many mistakes you make.
So true, too. You know, I mean, in watching especially.
In anything.
Yeah. And with Wong, kind of tiptoeing at times defensively, not with that aggressive style, little hop that we've seen in this series. Some of the plays where he's spun and thrown. And a base hit to left for Alan Craig. First hit tonight for Alan Craig. He does have an RBI.
All you can hope to do, I mean, the Cardinals were losing 7-0 at one point, and now they trail by 3. All you can hope to do in a game like this is get the tying run to the plate, and something good might happen. Somebody could run into a fastball out of nowhere.
Jim mentioned this in his report back in the 2nd inning, but Matt Adams did not start tonight, dealing with lower leg issue. At that point in time, uncertainty as to whether or not he could pinch hit. That would be somebody you'd think about running into one of those fastballs.
Yeah, right. No left-handers for the Yankees in their bullpen.
Exactly. 2 balls and no strikes. John Jay at the on-deck circle. Molina on base 3 times, a single, a double, and a walk. That's outside.
Nobody warming up in the Yankee bullpen. It's up to David Robertson to save it, or have the Cardinals tie it, or lose it.
The 3-0. Tying run will come to the plate.
Look at this, boys and girls.
Tim, if the Cardinals would somehow come back and tie this game up, or even eventually win it, you'd have to look back at the inning of Randy Choate to come in.
No question. I was thinking the same thing. Yeah.
I mean, he's kept him in the game.
Absolutely. Bases loaded, nobody out, no Yankees scored.
Infield hit for Jay and a run scored back in the 4th. Runners at 1st and 2nd. If you're wondering, this right-hander has 2 4-out saves, and that's what Joe Girardi is hoping he'll see number 3 here tonight. Big gap in right center. 0-2. I would have to think that Matt Adams is completely unavailable tonight.
For him not to be loosening up right now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Borges on deck. Strikeout of Jay. Now they pulled back Borges. And here we go. Adams has been a pinch hitter 4 times this season, 1 for 4 with an RBI.
It's kind of hard to hide Matt Adams.
We couldn't find him, but that's hard to
find him in the dugout.
Just standing there, you think, well,
yeah,
maybe not tonight.
Cameras trying to find him, and we found him kind of loitering over there, but without a bat in his hands.
Maybe it's more indicative of our eyesight. It's going south, I think.
Well, it could be.
Matt Adams is a hard man to miss. And the first pitch is a strike. We get Brendan Ryan, who's playing behind the bag at second. We've seen Adams, and the fact that he does go the other way. Big lane over there on that side.
Notice how the outfield is deeper than normal. We talked about a prevent defense earlier. This is one for the Yankees.
0-2.
Well, that was a wicked breaking ball right there.
Wow. .373 average against right-handed pitching. Adams is limping a bit. I noticed after the previous pitch, the curveball, it's almost like he's standing up on his toes a little bit. You don't see the drive, and limping after that last swing. So, Tim, you're a catcher. You see that. What do you do with a hitter here? See that he's having issues with that leg.
You've got 2 ways to work with Robinson: fastball or curveball.
Yeah, he's not right.
The fans remaining here at the ballpark looking for a Cardinal Kirk Gibson moment.
Yeah.
Famous 1988 Kirk Gibson home run against Oakland to win the first game of the World Series.
The 0-2. Strikeout of Adams. And it's down to Descalso representing the tying run. So you got another big breaking ball. From the Cardinals' perspective, you're thinking if he's going to make an out, have it with the strikeout, not a ground ball, because I don't know if he could run. Turns into a double play. I like the other option, though. Kirk Gibson limping around the bags, and this game tied. One-0 pitch to Daniel. 2-0. .27 pitches thus far for the closer of the Yankees. 2-2. Two. Check swing and a strikeout of Descalso, and the Yankees hold on. They take 2 of 3 and win this one 7-4.
Tough to recover when you fall behind by 7 in the 4th. Derek Jeter's last game in St. Louis was a winner for the Yankees.
So the Yankees hold on with the tying run at the plate. Strikeout of Descalso. The final night for Jeter, the Gateway City.